My name is Sandra Hempstead, and I'm the Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 34. I'm completing 3 years in this role, so this is my final Foundation Matters webinar as your Regional Foundation Coordinator. And I'm very pleased to be here with you again this evening. This evening, we're going to be doing something slightly different. We'll be sharing highlights of what we think are the best of this year's Foundation Matters webinars. We'll be talking about a number of different topics, and we've chosen them because we think there are topics that will be valuable to you as you get started in the next Rotary year. So first up, we have David Rao. David is the outgoing Endowment and Major Gifts Advisor. He is also completing his 3 years in that role. So if you know him, please reach out to him and tell you thank you for a great job. He's with the Rotary Club of Mid-Bay Bridge in Niceville, Florida, District 6940. And he's going to share an introduction about the Rotary Foundation. And if you didn't know it, there's 3 ways to do good through the Rotary Foundation. And Dave is going to share that this evening.
That Rotarians can do good in the world. First is the annual fund, which is sometimes referred to as the checking account, as funds are distributed through the share system. This allows districts to receive approximately 50% of their giving back after invested for 3 years. These funds are transformed into grants to fund local and international projects. Your Rotary Foundation Chair is a good resource to help you learn more about how your club can use these funds throughout your particular area. Second are restricted funds giving. These are opportunities to give to specific causes. Examples of this are the End Polio Now and Disaster Response Fund. Monies donated to these causes can only be used to support the cause to which the donation is made. I do want to point out that donations to disaster response cannot be designated to a particular disaster unless authorized by the trustees. Last is the endowment fund, which is sometimes referred to as the savings account. Cash gifts and bequests from Rotary members and families ensure long-term viability of the foundation grants and programs. Only spendable earnings from this fund are used to expand existing activities and underwrite new ones. Your original donation is never spent. Wanting to leave a legacy? Then the endowment fund will do this for you. With that, I would like to now, as you can see, we've covered quite a lot here in a short amount of time. And I'd like to let you know that all these good works in these different funds, we have a separate webinar that will cover each one of them in detail.
Thank you very much, Dave. And now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Ann Pearson is from the Rotary Club of Somerset, Pennsylvania in District 7305. And we chose Ann to highlight this evening because she did a great job summarizing very succinctly the tips for club presidents in choosing your foundation chair, one that will be very effective in that role for your club.
Well, I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about our club. Somerset is located within a rural county in southwestern Pennsylvania. We're one of only 2 clubs in our county, and we have 98 members. Our club was founded in 1925, so we're really looking forward to our 100th anniversary next year. I think there are 2 things that a club should consider when choosing a foundation chair. First, it needs to be a detail-oriented person who can complete paperwork in a timely manner and can follow up to make certain everything is entered correctly. Second, it must be a person who's trusted by your membership to handle all their contributions and maintain confidentiality. In our case, my predecessor chairperson was in the insurance industry, and I spent over 40 years in a bank trust department. So look for people like that. Now, some clubs actually form a foundation committee, but I serve as a committee of one in my club. I work closely with our membership committee, the club treasurer, and our foundation dinner committee. I think there's 5 parts to a club's successful foundation program. First of all is education. Our membership committee has developed a great Discover Rotary program to educate prospective members. This is an hour-long program which covers all aspects of the club, including an introduction to the Rotary Foundation and the Paul Harris Fellow designation. I usually attend these programs and participate in discussions. Second, leadership. Your club leadership needs to be committed to the program and must set an example for the members. I went back and reviewed 35 years of our club's archives, and I noted that each of our presidents for those years, including our current president, has a Paul Harris Fellow designation. Third, we try to make it easy for people. We know a lot of members cannot make large donations to the foundation at one time. If they wish to make regular contributions, they ask our treasurer to include an amount of their choosing with their quarterly dues invoice. The treasurer then sends those contributions to the foundation and lets me know about them. Another way we make it easy is to use our members' accumulated points. This year, the board of our club has approved the awarding of 667 points to any member who has not yet received the Paul Harris Fellow designation, if they will agree to donate the remaining $333. In addition, anyone wanting to move up to a new Paul Harris Fellow level may donate 1/2 of what they need, and we will give them points for the other half. Fourth, as Hewitt said, recognition. The foundation provides Paul Harris Fellow certificates and pins, and our club purchases medallions for new Paul Harris Fellows. We present these items at a club meeting, and we put a picture of the presentation in our weekly newsletter so all the members can see it. Our club publishes an annual roster book, which is distributed to all members. And one feature of the book is to list all of the Paul Harris Fellows connected to our club. So it's always there in front of everyone. The book also contains a list of our club's major donors and other special designations. Fifth is celebration. Annually, we host a foundation dinner in November. This is a very festive occasion where we honor our donors and provide more education about the foundation. We hold the dinner in place of one of our weekly lunch meetings. All the members are invited and they may bring a guest. We also invite dignitaries such as our local legislators, county commissioners, the mayor, and a number of our Rotary district officials. For last year's dinner, the committee decided on a patriotic theme. Everyone dressed in red, white, and blue and wore their Rotary pins and medallions. We also took advantage of special talents of many of our members. Our president created beautiful table decorations and decorated the entire venue. One member, who's a professional chef, prepared charcuterie boards for the cocktail hour. We have a musician in a club who provided piano music while people were socializing. When it was time for dinner, the dignitaries were announced and escorted to their tables by club members. Also, as part of the program, we had a group of fun-loving members who wrote and performed a humorous skit featuring the ghost of Paul Harris, an Oscar Award winner for sure. It's an event that everyone looks forward to each year. I do understand that each club is different and will support the foundation in its own way. But if you follow the principles of education, leadership, making it easy, recognition, and celebration, you'll find what works for you. Thank you, and now back to Sandra.
Thank you very much, Anne. And wasn't that a wonderful description of the 5 ways that her club supports the Rotary Foundation in their club? Next up, we have someone that folks are very familiar with, John Nanny. John is a member of the Polio Eradication Advocacy Task Force, and he's the District 7630 Polio Chair. And he will share a very impactful discussion about polio, including an update, but most impressively about his experience as a polio survivor. So John, the virtual floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to present my story on polio and why we must eradicate polio. When I'm presenting to Rotarians, I often feel I'm preaching to the choir because so many Rotarians are so dedicated to ending polio. However, often many Rotarians know little about polio and often nothing about post-polio syndrome, how we are saving millions from a life of pain and suffering by ending polio. I'm here today as a polio survivor representing an estimated 20 million polio survivors in the world. Many of them, especially in developing countries, will never get the medical care I have been so blessed to get my whole life. As a Rotarian, I'm representing about 21 million people saved from polio, walking around today because of the incredible progress Rotary and its world partners have made in protecting children with polio vaccinations. Next slide. The picture on the left is me when I started to walk. What's interesting in this photo is what's missing. My mom refused to have my leg braces photographed for fear that people would ostracize me or my family because I had polio. Many times, people were quarantined, even whole blocks were quarantined. It was very fearful. My journey with polio began 6 months before the Salk vaccine was widely tested. I was only 10 months old when I was paralyzed from my neck down with polio. My mom did physical therapy on me so my muscles didn't atrophy while I was paralyzed. My mom did such a great job on me. I walked a year later. I actually played baseball, basketball, football in high school. I was very clumsy and my coaches didn't know I had polio and they often yelled at me and often called me lazy. It was a very frustrating time in my life. And that was polio for a lot of us polio survivors. Again, I was one of the lucky ones. I was blessed because I was too young to remember having polio. My mom would tell me how I would scream in pain when she stretched my muscles while I was paralyzed. The photo no, back up please. The photo on the left, on the right is for those who were older when they got polio, they remember all too well the pain and suffering and how many of them suffered through multiple painful corrective surgeries. One friend of mine even had their good leg shortened 5 inches to match their polio leg so they could walk without a limp. Next slide. These are some of the symptoms those of us with post-polio syndrome often occur. These symptoms show up about 30 to 40 years after the original polio virus, and as many as 70% of those paralyzed by polio. The polio virus doesn't come back. The muscles that took over for the damaged polio muscles start dying off early from overuse. When I turned 40, I started having most of these symptoms on the screen. Eventually, after seeing 10 different doctors in 2 years, many of them never having seen a polio survivor, I was finally diagnosed with post-polio syndrome. Many never get that diagnosis of post-polio syndrome and suffer without knowing why. Over 30 years later, I'm confined to a wheelchair for most of my mobility. For every child we save from polio, we truly are saving them from a life of pain and suffering. The old adage of use it or lose it had to be replaced for me by conserve to preserve. I've learned there's very little I can't do. I just have to find a different way of doing it. And I'm lucky I live in a world where there are organizations like Rotary International and Rotarians like yourself who care about the welfare of others and put service above self. Next slide. So while confronting the new challenges of today, it's important that we continue to fight to end polio, to sustain our commitment to the children of the world that we made in 1985, and to reach our fundraising goal of $50 million. That qualifies us for the full Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation matching monies. Our 50 million becomes 150. Hopefully by June 30th, 2025, with your help, we will reach that goal again this year. Rotary was there at the beginning of this monumental effort to eradicate polio, and we must be there at the end. The Polio Plus program is the root of all of Rotary's current 7 areas of focus. The Polio Plus program taught Rotary the importance of partnerships with other organizations, both public and private. It created a model of how Rotary operates today. Rotary's Polio Plus is and will be our legacy. What would that legacy look like if we don't eradicate polio? Let's make history today. Rotary celebrates World Polio Day every October 24th, but for the kids in the world that we haven't vaccinated, World Polio Day should be every day. We still have work to do. Thank you for your continued support and for listening to my story.
And thank you very much, John Nanny, for all of the work that you do for Rotary so that we can eradicate polio. Now, we often joke about the devil being in the details, but I want you to know that it's really true. The details are extremely important. Our next speaker is Dean Turner, who's from the Rotary Club of Bluffton, South Carolina, in District 7770. And he's going to share a very detailed description of how his club sets goals and some of the reports that are necessary to set the annual fund and polio goals. So Dean, you're next.
Rotary Club and District 7770 uses to set yearly goals for the annual fund share and for Polio Plus. So I'll be sharing part of a form they use, which will be very similar when we get down to talking at the end of this about how to enter this into my Rotary and your club's goals at the very end. Each district and club approaches goal setting differently. For some, it's kind of a goal driven, it's a bottom up that is driven by the clubs to begin with. And for others, it's a process which is initiated at the district level and the goals are set in conjunction with each club. District 7770 uses what I call a forward-thinking approach with its clubs. It works with its clubs by making an initial recommendation for each club's annual foundation goals or targets. As you're aware, all monies that are donated each year to the annual fund by clubs and individual members within the district are invested in the Rotary Foundation for a period of 3 years. And after 3 years, approximately 50% of those monies are returned to the district to be used during that oncoming year. And in District 7770, they set aside initially specific funds that go to support club service projects. They also set aside funds for community and environmental district grants, student exchange programs, larger combined grants, and to do some additional support for Polio Plus. Having each club set goals in this manner, I think, is important to the district because it's then able to project the amount of funds that we'll have coming back in future years, which it can then use for those processes. District 7770 recommends goals for each club are then presented to the club, and they're developed based on the number of active members in the club and the club's prior year annual giving. That's where some of the negotiation comes in because the giving in the clubs can change from year to year. There are special causes. We'll talk a little bit about that. But there are a few things I think as you sit down as a club or working with your district to set goals for your annual fund shares. First, you need to know your club members and their commitment to the community. Service to the community and community improvement and involvement is why people join Rotary. That should always remain a top priority. So it should be more than we're just giving to the annual fund. It's how does this benefit our community, and making sure that giving to the annual fund doesn't become just the primary focus of the club. Second, you need to be aware of special circumstances which may have impacted giving in the past or affect future giving. This may include having received special one-time gifts or special fundraising efforts by the club or district, which may or not be reoccurring. Those may include matching points campaigns that the district may initiate or the club may initiate. And then the club's goals also need to be realistic and ones the club's leadership believes can be achieved and will be supported by the club members. And finally, while goals should challenge the club, they're not set in stone. Goals are a target for the club and a way to plan for the future. Circumstances may change. In any given year, a club may exceed or fall short of their goals due to circumstances beyond their control. And we just finished talking about some of those circumstances that could affect us. So as you set goals, you determine what you're going to provide both to the annual fund or the other funds. I just want to share with you briefly then how to go in and enter those goals in My Rotary. So you first of all need to go to My Rotary. I've circled here, go to your account, sign in, and then we'll go to the next screen. What you should see is something like this that shows your club, the district. Go ahead and click on your club. Next screen. What'll come up will be several options. Click on goals. Once you click that, go to Rotary Club Central, click on that. What you'll see here then is a screen, and we're going to be focusing for the foundation on increasing your impact. The next screen. One of the options you do have in there is you can look backwards or forwards on your goals so you can see what you did in the past, how successful you were. Here and then to the next screen, you have the option to edit. And so if your goals aren't there, you want to edit it and enter those goals. Next screen. In this case, these are the goals that have been entered for our club for this next year for the annual fund contributions and Polio Plus fund contributions. It also then gives you, can we go back just one real quick? It also gives you where you stand as of any given date. So you know what you need to do, what you've accomplished. I will also say that some of these, the giving, the achievement of it is affected also by individual members in your club that may give directly to Rotary. Some of that you do have control over, some not, but it's a very positive thing. So next screen. And then of the 5 goals you can enter in there, we do show plans for benefactors, major gifts, bequest society. We don't deal with those primarily on a annual basis. Those are something you work long-term with. But we do put that up there as a reminder for us that that's a goal for us to achieve, and that we are constantly looking for those opportunities. And we'll have some points for discussion later or questions if you have them, which we can answer.
Thank you very much, Dean, for that description of how to set goals in your club. I'd like to now recognize and welcome Diane Billard. Diane is from the Rotary Club of Little River, South Carolina. And if you ever wondered how district grants are identified, Diane is going to share you an excellent example of how her club identifies grants that not only leverage the experience and the talent of her club members, but also meets a need for the community and is meaningful to the Rotary Club. So here, take a listen to Diane.
Well, good evening, and thank you for participating in this. As she mentioned, my name is Diane. Our club traditionally has done different types of district grants, so I was asked to discuss how we determine which project we should submit to the district. Our club started as a small club. It's now a medium club, and we use an informal process to determine the projects. And the president traditionally picks the project after discussing projects with our membership. Traditionally, we speak to the members to determine our community's needs, since many of our Rotarians are involved in community organizations. So one example, several years ago, our club submitted a district grant to help renovate the kitchen and laundry room for our local veterans homeless shelter. The homeless shelter houses about 10 residents, and it includes several veterans who live in tiny homes and a container home in the back of the house. The kitchen layout was impractical since it didn't include an area for them all to eat together, and it had a small food bank and a half bath. So the space was really tight. When the renovation was done, the layout was changed so the kitchen would allow for a table large enough for all the residents to eat together, since part of the purpose of the organization is to create a community. The half bath was then moved to the laundry room, so the space was much more usable. Our club service included us removing everything from the cabinets and the laundry room. And after speaking with the director and the residents, we eliminated duplicate pots and pans, so the residents had their own individual spaces in the cabinets. It allowed them to store their food, and I apologize for the new puppy. So once the kitchen cabinets were installed, our service was then washing all of the dishes and the pots and pans and putting them away. We also organized the food pantry, and we checked the expiration dates. We eliminated, food that had expired, and then we wrote the dates on the top of the cans, so it was easier for the staff and the residents to maintain the food bank. This project had a huge impact on the residents since the kitchen was now up to date and more usable. And the reason we chose the project is that the organization actually received seed money from our Rotarians. And many years ago, we had a district grant to renovate a container to a 1-bedroom home that would be used by a homeless veteran. We've had a long-standing relationship with this organization, and we provide service on an ongoing basis. So we knew how important it was to renovate the kitchen and laundry room. They also were able to get cabinets and flooring donated so that we could maximize the grant funds. The other project I'm highlighting is the district grant during my year as president. This project was chosen as a literacy grant that focused on Rotary International's 7 areas of focus. We created a committee for each area of focus, and the committee members then chose 2 books for each of the areas for the following age groups: preschool, elementary, middle, high school, and adults. Each committee member read the books to ensure that it included appropriate material. We then donated the books to 2 local libraries, as well as a private school, daycare center, elementary school, homeless shelter, and the club's little libraries. The local libraries allowed us to create a display about our project. So we had a picture frame for each area of focus and included several books that aligned with that area. In addition, we had the opportunity to read to children in a local daycare center and the elementary schools. In the case of the daycare center, we went weekly to read books to the children. And in the case of the elementary school, we read the book in 1 day to over 10 classes. The impact of the project was widespread due to the number of having over 200 children involved, including at-risk children, and the public display in the libraries. And we were pleased to hear from the local librarians that the patrons actually mentioned the display to them, so we knew that it had an impact on the public. The reason I chose the literacy project related to my grandparents all being immigrants, and I remember my grandmother telling stories about how kids made fun of her for not speaking English. So the highlight of the project for me was when I was reading a book to 4 classes of 2nd and 4th grade students, and the host teacher had me explain why we were doing the project. When I explained it, one child then spoke up about his experience as an immigrant, so it was a pretty meaningful experience. The other important piece of this project was it enabled all of our Rotarians to participate in the project. Overall, we had 20 Rotarians and Friends of Rotary who volunteered. By involving Friends of Rotary, it allowed us to gain potential members. It also created public awareness opportunities since we highlighted our library displays and reading to the children in the local newspaper. We even brought the display to a club meeting so the members could see it. I hope that you can see that putting together and implementing a district grant is not a daunting task, and it's a great way of building the Rotary team. We very much appreciate Rotary Foundation and District 7770's support of our projects. It's a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diane, and what a great impact your club has made with your district grants. Next, we're going to be discussing foundation reports and specifically some key reports that the Rotary Club and the Rotary Foundation Chair may want to use during the year to advance giving to the Rotary Foundation. Now, I'd like to highlight Katie Leisner, who's our annual giving officer. During this segment, Katie has prepared a wonderful slide deck of information. She is your go-to person if you have questions about foundation reports. So let's take a look at what she prepared. In today for Katie Leisner, who is not able to be with us, and she is a wonderful resource for you, so we will be referring to her throughout the presentation. We're going to go through some of the Rotary reports for the Rotary Foundation. This is the welcome slide that you'll get when you sign into Rotary.org. And you'll notice if you scroll down that you can get to the membership and foundation reports. Once you select those reports, then you come to the next page, which gives you the contribution reports. And you're going to select the report that you would like under those contribution reports. And you'll see that there's quite a few there. So the club reports do come up. I've circled a couple of them. And I think there's a third one. There we go. You can also reach these by logging into Rotary Club Central. And if you log into Rotary Club Central, you'll select the box on the top left side, and you'll get to the same spot that we were just in with the other reports. So we're going to go through a couple of these reports this evening. The first one being the Club Foundation, Club Fundraising Analysis. There we go. This is the report that's very recognizable because there's a bar chart right in the middle of it. This will give you 5 years of giving on one page, so we can see what the goals have been, what the total giving has been for the last 5 years to the annual fund. There is a bar chart which has the goals in gray. Dark blue has the total annual fund giving, and the light blue is your year-to-date giving. You can also see some information about donor recognition, sustaining members, Paul Harris eligible members, which are members who have given $1,000 and are eligible to be a part of the Paul Harris Society. Next page. And then moving on, we'll go to the club recognition summary. This is a report that many of the club foundation chairs will use. This is a great way to look at the recognition that's earned or soon to be earned for members of your club. Now, this report gives you club points and member points. It does not track cash giving. And the points that Rotary gives you, I liken it to a frequent buyer program, maybe at a store, because every time you spend $1 giving to the Rotary Foundation, you will get a point. And those points can be accumulated for Paul Harris recognition, but they can also be given as a recognition to honor someone else, perhaps another individual in your club or someone who is not a Rotarian. So this report is a great way to look at who has given, but it is not the best way to look at the cash that they've given, because this combines both points for cash and points that may have been awarded in recognition for the Rotarian. You can also see Rotarians designated as Bequest Society members, where they've given a donation to the Rotary Foundation in their will, or major donors. And then moving on, we will look at the Club Foundation Banner Report. This is also a great report. It enables us to see a number of different things. We can see in the upper right corner the total amount that the club has given since its charter. And that's kind of a fun number to look at. I think some of you may be surprised at just how much your club has given to the Rotary Foundation and the impact your club has made through those gifts. So sometimes if you're getting a little close to a particular designation, whether it's 100,000 or $1 million, you will maybe want to do a challenge to your club to get there during the Rotary year. You can also track to see if your club qualifies for any of the Rotary Foundation recognition banners, which is of course why it's called the banner report. So it might be an E-Ray banner, it might be a sustaining member banner. You can also see members that are Paul Harris Society eligible, are in the Paul Harris Society, and those that are using Rotary Direct. And Rotary Direct is the way that members can donate to the Rotary Foundation by going online and making an online donation. It can be a one-time donation or it can be a regular donation. It can be $85 a month, for example, to earn a Paul Harris, or it can be a quarterly donation. And I've got a couple of other things to share with you. This is a new annual fund resource, which gives you a really high level 4-page quick reference guide for the Rotary Foundation. It's something that would be great to have on your phone in case you need to impromptu make a presentation, or in case you have a question and you'd like to look up the answer very quickly. I'm going to stop here for just a second. There is a QR code here, and if you'd like to aim your phone towards that QR code, then you will be able to get a copy of this particular resource for you to save on your phone. And moving on, there are individual recognition that I'm going to go through a few of these here that are given to club members. And it's really important for club presidents to provide recognition when members give. Members give in a thoughtful way. Members give into an area that is most meaningful to them. So it's really important for us to recognize those clubs and those members and those gifts. The club recognition, moving on, can help to unite your club around around really seeing what your club can accomplish by what they've done. And this is, these are some of the club banners that you might see for your club. These banners can be presented by your district governor. They can be presented at a meeting, and they can be used to rally your club to really get spirit of giving in your club because your club has earned something, a banner as a group. And finally, the last slide here is foundation recognition points for Paul Harris Fellows. And I want to point out that there are Paul Harris Fellow +8 is the highest Paul Harris Fellow. That means that they have given just $9,000. And the following 1,000 would make someone a major donor. And again, this would need to be cash giving to $10,000 as a major donor. And finally, there's a great place to find forms, and there's so much that you can find on Rotary.org. So take a look when you sign in. You'll be able to see that you can find forms for giving there. You can find all kinds of information. And there's one other resource that I want to share before I end, and that is the Rotary Contact Center. It's contact.rotary@rotary.org. And I think that's about it. So thank you very, very much for attending our meeting this evening. I hope you found the short segments that we chose to show meaningful, and that you'll have some tips and maybe refresh your memory from the year about what we covered. We will be continuing the monthly webinars on the third Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So our next one will be July 17th at 6 p.m. And that one will cover resources and references for the coming year. The recording of tonight's webinar will be shared on the Rotary International Zones 33-34 website, along with the others from the year, if you'd like to look back at those. Going forward, you'll also notice that we're sharing smaller segments. So we will still share the entire 45-minute webinar, but we will also break them into the small topics that were presented on the webinar. So if you'd like to use the small snippet, the short webinar video, you'll be able to use that in perhaps a meeting with your club or a district meeting and have some additional dialogue of your own. And you might also want to just take a listen to one of those when you have just a few minutes. They should be about 10 minutes long. We will be also going forward reorganizing the area that we have on the Rotary International Zones website. So you will see that it changes slightly. We're looking to add the Foundation Matters recordings from the webinars in their own section for the coming year. So you can see that just this year's. And then we'll also look at a separate section for the small snippets. And then the third spot where we will have information is a resource center, which will have the PowerPoint slides and also any other documentation that we discussed in the meetings. So I want to thank you very much again for being here. You will get an email with a link to sign up for our next year's webinar series. And you can also find them on DACDB on the third Thursday of each month. And finally, I want to wish you a happy new year. We are just about to start the new Rotary year. It's an exciting time, fresh with energy and lots of hope for the future Rotary year. So thank you very much for joining. And this will conclude our webinar for this evening.